Hey guys, how are you doing? So today I'm going to take on a very interesting challenge, which is going to be I'm going to go through the entire Codecademy course and try to finish it as fast as I can. And along the way, my goal is to be able to help you guys, give you guys some kind of intuition. And for most of the people that are stuck, this is going to help you kind of get unstuck and think about code in a little bit of a different way, I hope. So I hope that this video helps you and it helps you solve those frustrating, annoying problems, because I remember when I was going through this, I didn't have any help and I would quit for weeks at a time because I simply did not know where to go. Even the forums didn't help me. So that's pretty much my main point, to help everybody else out there. So we're going to be taking the Codecademy course here. And we're going to be taking it in the language called Python, and there are tons of students enrolled here, 2.5 million. It's a fairly long course, and the level required is beginner. So Unit 1, it's syntax, tip calculator. Unit 2 talks about strings, date and time. And as we get further down, we go into more and more useful and more advanced things. So conditionals and control flow is going to be fun. Functions, dictionaries, and pretty much all of the stuff here. Battleships is going to be a lot of fun. So feel free to use this video as a resource to help you if you get stuck, or for entertainment. Just sit through and watch along how I tackle these problems. Okay, so the first one is Python is an easy programming language. You can use it to create web apps, games, even a search engine. I agree. Ready to learn Python? Click Save and Submit. Okay, so the first problem is already done. All I have to do is hit Save and Submit code. Okay, max streak of 1. Start next lesson. So creating web apps, games, and search engines all involve storing and working with different types of data. They do so using variables. A variable stores a piece of data and gives a specific name. For example, spam is equal to 5. So basically here they're teaching you how to store a variable name. So what I need to do, they gave me the steps to do it right over here. So I'm going to say my variable is equal to 10, and that's pretty much all I need to do here. So that was very simple. Set the variables to the values listed in the instructions. Not a big deal. A is equal to true, B is equal to false, and we're done. So they're talking about Booleans here. Boolean values are basically true and false. So like they just say a light switch, boom, one is on, one is off. Oh, my int. Whoops, forgot to add that. Oh, they want me to actually. That was just an example. So we got to do my int is equal to 7. My float equal to 1.23. My bool is equal to true. Okay, this should be good. All right. You have been reassigned. So here we're going to try to reassign values. So initially my int was 7. And then I'm going to change my int to 3, and that's pretty much it for this one. Sweet. Okay, now we get into functions, and functions are fairly cool. This code is poorly formatted because every time you write DEFs, right, you gotta indent 4 spaces, 4 or more spaces after you write that colon. This is called a function. So we wrote a function called spam, and what it does is it makes x equals 12, and then it returns eggs. So since these instructions, they're part of the overall function, so these need to be indented right underneath the function. So let's go ahead and indent this, and let's hit submit, and this should work. Okay, good. Whitespace means right space. So in Python, remember, whitespace is very important. And once again, we need to indent all of these. Otherwise, we'll get errors. A matter of interpretation. A window in the top right corner of the page is called interpreter. So basically it's that black window, the little black window in top right. And the interpreter runs your code line by line and checks for any errors. So in this example, they make a variable called cats and assign it the value 3. So we're supposed to create a variable called spam and set it to true. And we're supposed to create a variable called eggs and assign it the value false. Okay, great. Just to make sure the video is recording. Okay. Single line comments. And comments are things that are ignored in Python. And they're things that are ignored in any programming language. So the point of a comment is you're telling the machine, hey, don't read this. Okay? Read everything else, but just don't read anything that has some special symbol next to it, telling the machine that it's a comment. It's meant to be only read by a human being, and the computer has nothing to do with it, right? So if I said 5 plus 5, the computer might give me back a 10. But if I put it as a comment and I did this, the computer is not going to give me back anything, right? If I did this, the computer might give me back a syntax error or something, right? If I have semicolons like this. But if I did this and made it into a comment, the computer is just going to ignore it. That's really the point behind hashtags there, or comments. So it says, make sure, write a comment on line 1, make sure it starts with, so we can say anything we want, right? Hi, I am a very clever programmer. Okay, cool. So multi-line comments, the idea is that I can say stuff like, hello, how are you doing today? 5 plus 5 is 10 million. Pretty much I can say anything that I want. And this is a multi-line comment, okay? So we're done. Set count equal, basically the point of a multi-line comment is you can just write multi-lines and you don't have to put the hashtag over and over and over again. It's also useful for documentation later on when you learn what documentation is. For now, since you're probably learning this language on Codecademy and you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you don't know what documentation is because you're most likely a beginner. But if you're not, that's okay too. Great, now let's do some math. So in programming languages, you can do a lot of math. Okay, there's a lot of math stuff that you can do, which is fun. So for example, if I opened up my terminal, I can open up Python, and actually let's just do regular Python. If I did 5 plus 5, I did 10 plus 10, 10 times 20, so on and so forth. You can do math operations. So let's do addition. Set the variable count2 equal to the sum of two big numbers. Okay. What does it mean, big numbers? I don't know, 100 plus 200? Sure. I mean, I don't know how big of the numbers that they wanted, but I just put some arbitrary numbers, 100 and 300. Fairly big. Exponentiation. So we're going to learn about how to use the exponent in Python. And most of the places you'll see the exponent like this, right? Something raised to the power of something. So if I did 2 raised to the power of 2, that's 4. If I did 4 to the raised to the power of 2, that's 16. 4 squared. And here we're going to do 8, and we're going to say create a new variable called eggs and use exponent set eggs is equal to 100. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to say 10 squared, right? That gives me 100. So this should run perfectly. We got the result 100. We got the little green check mark at the bottom. So let's keep going. So now let's talk about the modulo operator. It's basically the remainder. So if you had 10 modulo 2, well, what's the remainder? If you did 10 divided by 2, doesn't 2 go perfectly into 10? So let's just make this clear. And I did 10 divided by 2. I have no leftovers, right? It goes perfectly into 10. So if I did 10 modulo 2, I should have a remainder of 0. Nothing is left over. But if I did 11 divided by 2, well, 2 doesn't go perfectly into 11 because 11 is an odd number. So if I did 11 remainder of 2, what do you think I'm going to get back? 2 goes perfectly into 10, and then there's 1 left over. So my remainder is going to be, if you have guessed already, it's going to be 1. Okay, so that's simply what a remainder is. Now let me just ask you, what do you think the remainder of 99 divided by modulo 2 is going to be? So remember, 98, 2 goes perfectly into 98, and then you have 1 over, so you get remainder is going to be 1 here. How about 100 modulo 2, right? How about 100 modulo 3, what you get? So once again, 99, 3 is going to go into 99, you get 1 left over, and you're going to get a remainder of 1. So sometimes you want to get the remainder, right, of whatever you're doing. So it's a pretty useful operator to have at our disposal, because then we can use it fairly easily. So here, use modulo set spam equal to 1. So once again, we did 99, we did 100 modulo 3, and that's going to give us back 1. Remember, we tested it out. So that's how we're going to make spam equal to 1. See, use modulo spam equal 1. You can use any 2 numbers that will leave a remainder of 1 to do this. Cool. Next review. Bringing it all together. Variables which store values for later. Data types such as numbers and Booleans. So variables are like, x is equal to 5, y is equal to 2. Those are all your variables. Okay. Data types are, in Python, you have numbers, you have strings, you can have a list, you can have a dictionary. So once again, if you don't know what a list or dictionary is, just ignore this. It's not a problem. Don't worry about it. But just remember, like 5 and hello, those are different kind of data types. Hello is a string, or what if I had a true in here, right? Remember what the word for true and false is? It starts with the B, bool, okay? Boolean. So true and false, they're going to be Boolean values. Whitespace. So that's what separates the statements. If I had x is equal to 5, and now I'm doing y is equal to 4, that's separating the statement x5 and y4. You can't just do y equals 4 on the same line. You got to give it some white space. And white space just means blank. And blank means something very important in Python. So if you did define f of nothing and it says print hello, well, it's not going to work if you don't have that white space before the print. So in Python, white space is very, very important. In other languages, white space doesn't matter. You just put squigglies around everything. But comments. Okay, comments. How can I make this line a comment? Just add a hashtag before it, okay? Comment. My code will run and it'll ignore it. It won't give me any syntax error or nothing. It's just going to ignore it. And arithmetic operations, that's pretty straightforward. Plus, minus sign, subtraction, addition, multiplication of 2 numbers, division, exponentiation of 2 numbers or multiple numbers, and then the modulo operator, right? The modulo operator that we played with. So it says, write a single line comment on line 1. I'm going to say, hello, YouTube audience. I'm assuming that's how you're watching this video. Set the variable Monty equal to true, and set another variable Python equal to 1.234, and set the third variable Monty Python equal to Python squared, right? I'm taking this Python and I'm squaring it. Okay, cool. So what is this? Start lesson. Sure, let's start the lesson. I mean, that's what I'm here for, right? Doing these lessons. Now, let's apply the concepts from the previous section to a real-world example. Okay, so now we're getting to some fun part of the code. So you finished eating a restaurant and received this bill. You'll apply the tip to the overall cost of the meal, including tax. First, let's declare the variable meal and assign it the value 44.50. So here I'm going to say meal, and that's equal to 44.50. The reason why you always see me have spaces here is because that's writing good code. That's just trying to make my code cleaner, because when it's tightly compacted together like that, it's hard for a human to read and it reduces the readability. So this is the standard way to do this, and it's accepted, and it's the convention. So you should practice writing good code as you're starting your careers. Okay, so I have this meal, and those were all my instructions. Meal tax is equal to 6.75%. Another way to write 6.75 is 0.0675. And because remember, 6.75% is really the same thing as 6.75 divided by 100. Okay, so if I run this code again, it's going to work. Assign the tip variable on line 5. Okay, so tip, set the variable tip to decimal value of 15% on line 5. Okay, so what we're going to do here, set the variable tip to decimal value of 15% on line 5. Okay, so that's the decimal value of 15%. Wait. That's, okay, so they're using Python 2, and here I just want to explain it really quickly. So what just happened was you saw me do 15 divided by 100, and then it gave me an error, and then I added that little decimal 0 afterwards, and then all of a sudden it says way to go, click next lesson. So I'm going to explain to you why one of those worked and why one of them didn't work. Okay, so if I did 15 divided by 100, in Python 3, I'm going to get a decimal value, okay? But in Python 2, let me show you what happens, okay? So let me activate my Python 2 here so I can show you guys what happens. And let's say 15 divided by 100. So notice what happened. It gave me a 0. That's weird. So here's what it does. If I did 10 divided by 3, it's going to give me the perfect number of times 3 goes into 10. Okay, it's not going to give me a decimal value. If I want to do that, I have to make sure that I'm telling the computer that I'm passing in an integer, like a float number, a decimal number. Once I tell it that, it knows to give me the exact value. But otherwise, it'll just tell me how many times some number goes into another number. If I did, once again, 100 divided by 3, I'm going to get 33. Okay, I'm not going to get 33.333, whatever I should get. If I did 100 divided by 0.3.0, then I will get that. So what was happening here was when I did 15 divided by 100, it was like 100 goes 0 times into 15 because it's trying to give me a whole number. But when I do 0.0, now it says 15 divided by 100, and it gives me some small decimal value. Okay, that decimal value will be 0.015. So here, if I can show you 15 divided by 100, it's going to be 0.15. Sorry, I meant to say 0.15. Reassign in a single line. Okay, we've got the 3 variables. We need to perform our calculation. We know some arithmetic operations that can help us out. So we saw in lesson 1, we could say spam is equal to 7, and later change our mind and say this. Okay, cool. On line 7, assign meal to the value. So meal to the value of itself plus itself times tax. So pretty much like this, okay? So no. like this, okay? Right? No, I had it correct first. All right. So here I'm saying if the meal was $44, that's just $44, $44.50, and then the meal times the tax is the tax you have to pay. Okay, so 44.50, and the tax you have to pay on that is 0.06. So this is your tax, this is your meal plus tax. That's the entire amount that you have to pay for your meal. Okay, fairly simple. Total. Assign the variable total to the sum of meal plus on line 8. Now you have the total cost of your meal. Assign the variable total to the sum. Now you have the total cost of your meal. I'm confused. Are they saying do this? No. What are they saying? Total is equal to meal plus tip, maybe? Oh, duh. Okay. So it's basically meal plus the tip that we paid on the meal. Okay, so the same logic applies. Yeah. Duh. So meal, how much you paid for the meal, that's your total. Okay, so the new meal is this whole thing here. So this variable here is holding your information for the meal itself and the tax that you paid on it. And then this part here is calculating the tip that you paid based on your meal. So that's going to be your total. This takes into account the money that you paid for your meal. It takes into account the tip that you paid based on upon your meal, and it takes into account the tax based on your meal. Okay, next. Strings and console output. I'm going to create a variable called Brian, and I'm going to assign it the value hello life. Okay, this is called the string. String means literally I can put anything I want in there. Okay, it's not going to throw an error, it's not going to do anything. It's just completely arbitrary, and it's just completely made up, whatever you want to put in there. That's what a string is. Okay, when you're writing that Word document in Python, those would be like every single word in there is, it's all a string. That's what it is. Because hello life is not a variable, it doesn't have any value attached to it. But Brian is a variable, because if you typed in Brian, you would get back hello life. Cool, let's move on. So now let's practice. Let's get a little practice in strings. So set Caesar is equal to Graham. Caesar is equal to Graham, and praline, I'm probably saying it wrong, is equal to John, and Viking is equal to Teresa, and those are all strings. Okay, and that's pretty much it here. The string below is broken. Fix it using the escape backslash. This isn't flying, this is falling with stop. So escape backslash, what that means is, okay, look, you're trying to put this entire thing into a string, right? You want to put this entire thing with quotes around it. So whether you put single quotes or double quotes, it doesn't matter. But what the main problem is happening here is it's thinking that this apostrophe isn't. It's thinking that it's ending the string. So it thinks this part is a string, and then it just has no idea what this whole part is, right? It thinks this whole part, if I separated it out, it thinks this whole part is just some gibberish, and this part is the actual string. But what we want is the whole thing to be a string. So one solution would be I put double quotes here and I put double quotes here, but that's not the answer that they want. Okay, they want us to do something that escapes a backslash. So this is what we're gonna do. Okay, and what that means is it's saying this is an apostrophe, and I don't want you to think of it as a quote. Okay, that's all that does. That's the term for it, escape backslash. Okay, so you're escaping the quote by putting a backslash there. So now the whole thing has turned into a string, and that's it. Okay. Now we have the string Python has 6 characters. Number 0 to 5 is shown below. All right. So now let's try to get the 5th character. So I'm gonna do. How do I get the 5th character? So what do they want me to do here? 5th letter equals a letter of string Monty. All right. So the 5th letter is gonna be N here, right? Because that's the 5th letter here. Wait. Start counting. Right. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I see. They want us to start counting from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, oh. No, I'm wrong. It's still N, but I just didn't put it in, what? Wait, what is going on? So if you wanted Y, you could just type this is weird. How do they want this? I'm not sure how they want this. Oh, okay. I feel a little not good. I think 4 here. All right, I'm kind of lost. This is super. Oh my god, they're saying Monty. Okay, Monty. All right. Now remember the reason why. So the 5th letter is really the 4th letter because we start from 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in our case, the word was Monty. Okay, and that's what tripped me up. So here for us, the word is actually Monty. So let me actually write that down here. And that's what it is for us. Okay. Okay, that's what it is for us. That's how we got Monty in the 5th letter. Ignore the top part. That's only an example. I constantly was trying to use that. Okay, let's move on. String methods. Okay, len, lower, upper, string. Great. So these are pretty cool methods. You know, you can use this one to get a length of a string. So let's say you had something like, hello, my name is Rafik Hazi and I'm a programmer. It's going to tell you like, hey, the length of that string is huge. That's like a lot of letters in there. If you said hello, right? If I try to get a length, so let me show you guys these here. So if I said len of hello, well, that's 5, right? There are 5 letters in it. Now let's say I did hello dot lower. What do you think that's going to do? That's just going to make hello all lowercase. Let's say I had you know, bunch of capital whatever letters. It's going to make it all lower. Well, what do you think the upper is going to do? It's just going to do is simply going to do the opposite of that. So if we had, you know, a bunch of small letters like this, it's going to make them all uppercased. Okay? So that's really what's going on there. Okay, this doesn't need to be this wide. Come closer. All right. Cool, makes sense. All right, and string, what this does is it just converts something to a string. So if I had a number like 5, it's gonna give me back a string 5. Okay, so like let's say I did 5 plus 5. Well, you can do that, but let's say you try to do 5 plus 5. you can't add those. So what it does is it just adds them together, just like if you said hello plus everyone. Okay, it's just gonna concatenate them. So what it did is it added the 5s together. It's not really looking at them like numbers, it's just looking at them like strings. So it doesn't know that it's an integer type and it can't add them together anymore. All it can do is concatenate them and do only things that it knows how to do with strings. It doesn't see these 5s any different than it sees hello and everyone. So that's really what string does. So if I do string of 5 plus string of 5, well, what do you think you're gonna get? Do you think you're going to get 55, the 5, or do you think you're going to get 10? So think about it for a second. Okay, I hope that you've thought about it or paused the video. I'm going to hit enter. And you're going to get 5, of course, because you're taking the number 5 and you're converting it to a string, meaning you're forcefully putting the quotes around it. All it does is put the quotes around it, okay? If you did string of hello, it's going to say undefined variable because it doesn't know what hello is. So you have to do it on something that actually exists. So like a number, a floating number you can do it on, but you can't really, if you did it on a string, it wouldn't make much sense. So you can use this on everything, but you can use it on numbers. So it's helpful. All right. So I've basically explained to you what len, lower, upper, and str do. And now let's get started. On line 1, create a variable named parrot and set it to the string Norwegian blue. So I'm going to say parrot is equal to Norwegian blue. On line 2, I'm going to say print. So right here I'm going to write length parrot. Okay, let me ask you, and treat these like short interactive quizzes, okay? Just pause the video and think about what the answer would be. So what do you think the length of parrot is going to be? I'm going to give you 5 seconds to pause the video and come up with an answer, and then I'm going to go ahead and answer it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's going to be the length of this string. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, space 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it's going to return 14. Let's try. So we got back 14 here, right? Okay, cool. Now let's move on. Now it's going to show us Ryan dot. So it's showing us Ryan dot lower, and that'll just return Ryan. So call lower on parrot after print on line 3 in the editor. So I'm going to say print, and I'm going to refer to this string by the variable parrot. Okay, I don't have to write Norwegian blue again. I can just write parrot, and I can say lower, and it's going to return. What do you think is going to return in lower? Take a few seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's going to return Norwegian blue in all lowercase. So all it's going to do is change this B to a lowercase and this N to a lowercase and return that. So here. Don't worry about the none. All right. Call upper. So upper is pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to just do upper here. Okay. Cool. So that's pretty simple, and we got everything in uppercase. You guys already have an idea about this. Declare and assign your variable on line 5, then call your method on line 5. So I'm going to declare on line 4. So I'm going to say create a variable called pi is equal to 3.14, and I'm going to print string pi. Okay, and it's going to put quotes around that number. That's pretty much what it's doing. Okay, it's not showing you, but in my terminal, which is better, it showed you there, right? It showed you there. So if I ran pi is equal to 3.14, and it print string of pi. Oh, Well, just trust me, guys. It's supposed to have. It's a string, so it has quotes around it. Okay. If I showed it to you, you see it has quotes around it. But when you print it, I forgot. It just doesn't put quotes around it. But in reality, it has quotes around it. Okay. So remember, this is not the number 3.14. It's the string 3.14, just like a string. So if you did 3.14 plus 2, you're not gonna get 5.14. What you're gonna get is something that doesn't make any sense, because it says you cannot concatenate or combine a string and an integer. So basically what you're doing is like hello plus 2. You can't do that. Okay, that's gonna give you an error. Okay. Let's take a closer look at why you use len string and string object, but dot notation such as string.upper for the rest. So let's take a closer look now. So lion roar, len lion dot upper. Okay, methods that use dot notation only work with strings. On the other hand, len and string can work on other data types. So if you have a list of things, you know, if I showed you a little bit of a sneak peek of what's to come ahead, if I had some list, okay, and this list has a bunch of let's say numbers in it in increasing order, x, that's what that is. Well, if I did len of x, I will get that there are 8 numbers in this list. Okay, so that's what a len of x is going to do, and string of x is just going to put quotes around it. Okay, that's all that does. Okay, not very useful. Okay, so on line 3, call the len function with the argument ministry. So I can say len of ministry. So once again, what do you think it's going to give me? If you guessed it, it's going to give me the length of this string here. Good job. That's right. Line 4, I'm going to do ministry dot upper. And that's going to basically uppercase the whole string. Okay. The ministry of silly walks, 27. So the length of this is 27. You can count it if you want. Okay, tell Python to print Monty Python to the console on line 4. Print, and I can just do Monty Python. Okay, in Python 3, you have to always use print like this. Okay, so just an FYI, if you have Python installed on Python 2, you can use the print like this or the other way, or this way. Okay. All right, so this was simple enough. And now we're doing more printing variables. So the machine goes is going to be our variable, and we're going to assign it to the string ping. All right, and then I'm going to print the machine goes. Okay, that was pretty simple. Alright, so now they want us to do some string concatenation. So remember what I told you. Hello plus everyone plus say cheers. Okay, what do you think this is going to write? It's going to say hello everyone, say cheers. Okay, or so it just, when you do the plus sign on strings, it just concatenates. In other words, it just puts it together, okay? That's all that fancy word concatenate means. If you don't want to say it, that's okay, but just learn it because it's a fancy, cool word and it's used very often. But it's just saying that you're combining the string. So that's what happens when you do the plus sign. So here, you probably have a good feeling what this is going to turn out to be. If I did print life of Brian, so as a matter of fact, why don't we do it right there? Life of Brian. Okay, let's give it a try. Print the concatenate string spam and eggs on line 3. So I'm going to say print, and this should not. Okay, so this might work, but I'm just going to show you guys the regular way. spam and eggs and